You think your heartbreak is killing you? No, it's not killing you. It's carving you. Right now, it feels like someone has ripped the floor out from under you. Your chest is heavy, your stomach's in knots, and every random little thing, from a song on the radio to the smell of their perfume, pulls you right back into that memory loop. They're gone, but somehow they're everywhere. That's heartbreak's cruelest trick. It doesn't just take the person away. It takes the version of yourself you were when they were there. And the worst part? Most people don't survive heartbreak. They just stall in it. They live in that echo chamber of what went wrong and what could I have done until the pain becomes their personality. But you're not here for a pity party. You're here because something deep inside you knows this is not how your story ends. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Translation: your ex may have broken your heart, but they do not get to keep it. And yet, if we're being brutally honest, most people hand it over anyway. They keep replaying the same conversations. They keep revisiting the same photos. They keep checking who's watching their stories, who's liking their posts, who's moved on faster. That's not healing. That's self-torture disguised as nostalgia. Here's the part that will sting. The longer you stay stuck in that loop, the more you're training your mind to crave the pain. Yes, crave it, because heartbreak, like any other high-intensity emotional state, can be addictive. The brain doesn't care whether it's pleasure or pain. It just cares about the chemical spike. Psychology calls it emotional reinforcement. Your mind starts associating your ex, the relationship, and even the breakup itself with an identity, a story you keep telling yourself. And the longer you tell that story, the harder it becomes to imagine life without it. But you can rewrite the story starting today. You can't think your way out of heartbreak. You can't wait it out. And you sure as hell can't drown it in rebounds, late-night texts, or stalking their Instagram at 2 a.m. Why? Because heartbreak is not a wound you patch. It's a signal you answer. A signal that says, wake the hell up. This is your turning point. When you stop running from the pain and start using it, everything changes. You stop obsessing about who's texting who. You stop negotiating your value in someone else's absence. You start building a version of yourself so sharp, so whole, so unshakable, that the person who left becomes a footnote, not a headline. And I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. If you stick with me until the end of this video, you'll walk away with 7 tactical, no-fluff ways to make your heartbreak hurt less, starting today. Not one day, not when the pain fades. Today. And if you've been with me through the 7 volumes of the Avoidant X series, you already know we don't do sugarcoating here. We don't coddle the wound. We cauterize it. We burn away every excuse, every illusion, every weak habit keeping you stuck. Until you're not just over them, you're above them. Now, here's the thing about heartbreak most people miss. It's not just an emotional collapse, it's an identity collapse. Who you thought you were, what you thought you had, and the future you imagined, gone in an instant. And that's exactly why this can be the most powerful moment of your life, if you choose to see it for what it really is, a clean slate with jagged edges. Those jagged edges, they're not there to cut you, they're there to cut away everything that no longer serves you. Psychology proves it. When you replace ruminating thoughts with intentional action, you rewire your emotional response to loss. Your brain learns that you're not a victim of what happened, you're the architect of what happens next. That's why some people seem to bounce back stronger, sharper, and more magnetic after heartbreak. It's not luck. It's not moving on fast. It's strategy. And starting in the next few minutes, you're going to have that same strategy. But first, let's dismantle the lie that's keeping you stuck. You've been taught that healing means getting over them. that if you can just stop thinking about them, you'll be fine. Wrong. Healing means getting back to you, the version of you who doesn't need their validation to feel valuable. And that's where most people get trapped, because they confuse numbness with healing. They shut down, they avoid, they distract, they try to erase the pain instead of transforming it. Seneca said, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." Heartbreak is just emotional resistance training, and the weight you feel pressing on your chest right now, that's the exact weight that's going to build the version of you who never tolerates this kind of pain again, but only if you lift it on purpose. So here's what's going to happen. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to hand you 7 brutally effective shifts, mental, emotional, and practical, that will strip the sting out of heartbreak starting today, not someday, not when you meet someone new, right now, while the wound is still fresh. Because waiting to feel better is like waiting for your ex to text you an apology. It's giving control to the wrong damn person. And speaking of control, I need you to make a decision right now. Are you watching this to feel temporary comfort or to get permanent power? If you're here for power, then you're in the right place. If you want comfort, TikTok's got plenty of breakup quotes for you. But if you're ready to walk out of this heartbreak with a sharper mind, a stronger spine, and zero tolerance for emotional crumbs, then pay attention, because here's my promise. By the time we hit number 7, you're going to feel the shift. That edge in your voice, that calm in your chest, that first crack in the shell where the light starts to get in. Now, before we dive in, make sure you hit subscribe and turn on all notifications. Because if you think this video is about to hit you hard, you haven't seen the rest of what's coming. We've got 7 full volumes on Avoidant X psychology. If you've missed those, you're literally skipping the blueprint on how to break free from toxic cycles forever. And trust me, you want that blueprint. Because heartbreak isn't the villain. Heartbreak is the teacher that makes sure you never sit in the wrong class again. One last thing before we get tactical. I want you to go into the comments right now and type, "I'm not done, I'm becoming." Say it like you mean it. Say it so you can see it staring back at you tomorrow, next week, next month, when you forget how powerful you actually are. Say it as a declaration that this pain isn't going to bury you, it's going to build you. Type it, claim it, and let's get into the 7 ways to make your heartbreak hurt less, starting right now. Way number 1, stop bleeding out through contact. Let's be brutally honest. You're not just staying friends. You're not keeping it casual. You're not maturely staying in touch. You're keeping the wound open. Every time you just check their social media. Every time you scroll through old photos in the dark at 2:14 a.m. Every time you let a "hey stranger" text pull you into an hour-long back and forth. You're not healing. You're leaking power. This is the most important truth you need to swallow right now. Heartbreak heals in proportion to the distance you put between yourself and the source of the injury. And if the source of that injury still has VIP access to your emotions, then every interaction is just pouring salt into the cut. Why contact keeps you stuck? Most people don't realize this, but your brain isn't as logical as you think. It doesn't care about the breakup date stamped on your calendar. It doesn't care about your decision to move on. It only knows one thing: patterns. When you were with them, your mind formed an attachment loop. See them, talk to them, feel validated. That loop doesn't just vanish when the relationship ends. It stays in your neural wiring. So every time you text them, view their stories, or even hear their name in conversation, you're reactivating the very circuitry that's keeping you emotionally hooked. It's like having a broken leg and thinking, "Let me just go for a jog to see how it feels now." You wouldn't do that, and because you know it would rip the injury open again. So why are you doing it with your heart? The emotional hemorrhage contact with your ex, especially in the first weeks and months, is like leaving an open artery exposed. You may think you're handling it well, but every time you engage, you lose a little more emotional blood. And here's the problem with emotional blood loss. You often don't notice how weak you've gotten until you can barely stand. That weakness shows up as sudden mood crashes for no reason, feeling exhausted but unable to sleep. An inability to focus on your own life because you're still orbiting theirs. This isn't just heartbreak. It's self-inflicted heartbreak on repeat. But what if they forget me? Here it comes. The most common and most toxic thought people have before going no contact. But if I cut them off completely, what if they forget about me? Let's get this straight. If someone can forget you just because you're not handing them constant attention, they never valued you to begin with. You are not a subscription service they can cancel the second they get bored. You are a limited edition. And here's the paradox. The moment you remove yourself from their daily access, you don't fade, you become more vivid in their mind. Why? Because humans are wired to crave what they can't easily have. No contact isn't petty, it's powerful. Some people will try to guilt-trip you about cutting contact. They'll say things like, "That's immature," or "You should be able to be friends." Ignore them. They're speaking from comfort, not from clarity. No contact isn't about punishing them. It's about protecting you. It's about reclaiming your mental oxygen so you can actually breathe again. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Cutting contact is how you take that power back. It's how you stop giving the steering wheel of your emotions to someone who already drove you into a ditch. The rules of emotional first aid. If you were bleeding out physically, you wouldn't say, "Let me keep the knife in for a little while longer, just to see how it feels." You'd remove it, apply pressure, and stop the bleeding before you even thought about walking away. Heartbreak is no different. The first stage of healing is stopping the leak. Here's how you do it. Delete the chat threads. All of them. No scrolling back to reread the good days. Unfollow or mute them everywhere. Instagram, TikTok, WhatsApp status, even LinkedIn if you have to. Block their number if you can't resist responding. Your peace is worth more than your pride. Tell mutual friends not to update you. Nothing derails your progress like, "Hey, did you hear what they're doing now?" Remove reminders from your space. Physical triggers can be just as damaging as digital ones. You're not going ghost. You're going guard. Some people hear no contact and think it means disappearing in shame. Wrong. You're not hiding. You're fortifying. You're putting up emotional boundaries so you can do the work you've been avoiding, rebuilding your confidence, rediscovering your purpose, reclaiming your time, energy, and focus. You're not cutting them off because you're weak. You're cutting them off because you're about to become so strong that when they hear your name months from now, they won't even recognize the person you've become. When no contact turns the tables. Here's the twist. The second you stop bleeding out through contact, you shift the power dynamic. They go from knowing they can have you whenever they want, to wondering if they've already lost you for good. And that uncertainty, it gnaws at them. It makes them curious. It makes them replay the moments they took for granted. But by then, you won't be sitting around waiting to see if they'll knock on your door. You'll be too busy becoming the upgraded version of yourself that wouldn't settle for them even if they did. The bottom line, no contact isn't about erasing them from existence. It's about erasing their ability to dictate your emotional weather. You can't heal if you keep letting them trigger the wound. You can't rebuild your life while they still have a spare key to your mind. You can't step into your next chapter while you're still writing footnotes for the last one. The day you stop bleeding out through contact is the day your heartbreak starts clotting. It's the day you move from being the victim of the story to being the editor who decides which characters make it to the next chapter. Go ghost. Seal the door. Start construction, because the strongest version of you doesn't text at midnight. The strongest version of you doesn't watch their stories hoping for crumbs. The strongest version of you isn't wondering if they miss you. The strongest version of you is too busy becoming unforgettable. Gapo Tusek. Way number 2. Starve the story that's keeping you stuck. Let's be clear. Right now, you're not just missing them. You're feeding a story about them. And that story is what's actually keeping you in pain. It goes something like this. We were perfect. If only I had done this differently. They were the one. I'll never feel that again. They'll realize what they lost and come back. I just have to wait. Sounds familiar? Here's the problem. That's not reality. That's a highlight reel of selective memories and emotional bias. And you're the one pressing replay. The psychology of self-inflicted pain. Psychologists call it narrative reinforcement. It's the loop where your brain builds a story that fits your emotions and then keeps retelling that story until it feels like fact. The more you tell the story, the stronger the emotional charge. The stronger the charge, the more you believe it's the truth. And the more you believe it's the truth, the harder it is to imagine a future that doesn't revolve around them. This is why your heartbreak still feels fresh months later, because you've been keeping it fresh. You've been watering it like a plant. You've been giving it oxygen every time you replay the good times or rewrite the ending in your head. It's not the breakup keeping you stuck. It's the mental movie you're refusing to stop watching. The story is a lie. Here's why your brain is biased. It's wired to remember emotional peaks more vividly than the mundane truth. That's why you're remembering the way they looked at you that one night, but not the way they ignored you for 3 days after an argument. It's why you recall the passionate makeups, but not the exhausting breakdowns that came before them. In short, you're not missing them. You're missing the edited version of them that your mind is projecting. And until you rip the script out of your own hands, you'll keep clinging to a love story that never actually existed. The drug of what if. You know what's more addictive than love? The hope that love will return. That's why people get stuck in this story for years, because what if is a drug. It gives you just enough dopamine to keep you hanging on, but never enough closure to set you free. What if they text tomorrow? What if they break up with the new person? What if they realize I'm the one? Here's the truth. What if is a prison cell, and you're the one keeping the door locked from the inside. Starving the story means starving the triggers. You cannot dismantle the story if you keep feeding it triggers. Triggers are the breadcrumbs that lead you right back into the same loop. That means stop stalking their social media just to see what's new. Stop bringing their name up in every conversation with friends. Stop revisiting old playlists, old photos, old places where the two of you made memories. You don't have to pretend those moments didn't happen, but you do have to stop giving them your present attention. Because here's the brutal truth. Every second you spend thinking about your ex is a second you're robbing from your future self. The replacement narrative. So what do you do instead? You write a replacement narrative. If the current story in your head sounds like, "They were my only shot at real love," then your replacement narrative becomes, "They were the fire that burned away the weaker version of me. Now I'm rebuilding stronger." If the old story is, "I'll never find someone like them again," the replacement is, "Good. I'm not looking for them again. I'm looking for someone who makes me feel safe, valued, and whole." Your goal is to flip the script so you're no longer the abandoned character. You're the main character who survived a plot twist and is now headed for the real climax of their story. Ripping out the fantasy ending. You've probably been imagining the day they come to their senses and show up at your door. Stop. That's the most dangerous part of the story. The fantasy ending. Because as long as you keep that version in your head, you'll subconsciously resist moving on in case it happens. And here's the irony. The day you finally let go of the fantasy ending is usually the day they actually notice you're gone. But by then, you'll be too far ahead to care. Why this hurts and why that's good, let's not sugarcoat it. Killing the old story will hurt. It's like deleting your favorite playlist, knowing you'll never hear those songs the same way again. But pain isn't the enemy here. It's the proof you're pulling out the poison. You can't detox from an emotional addiction without withdrawal symptoms. Let the ache come. It's just your brain rewiring for a new reality. Seneca said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Your story is your imagination. Reality is the fact that your life is still here. Your opportunities are still here. Your ability to love, better and smarter, is still here. The daily practice to starve the story. Here's how you make this shift stick. Name the old story. Write down the exact narrative you've been feeding yourself. Challenge it. List the facts that contradict the fantasy. Yes, facts, not feelings. Replace it. Craft a new narrative that makes you the hero, not the victim. Reinforce it daily. Read the new story out loud every morning until it's the only version that feels true. Guard your triggers. If something pulls you back into the old loop, cut it off or replace it with something tied to your new story. The bottom line. You can't outgrow a heartbreak you keep romanticizing. You can't move forward while replaying an ending that never actually happened. You can't starve the pain while feeding the fantasy. Starving the story doesn't mean you never think of them again. It means when you do, you see the truth, not the highlight reel. And the moment you commit to starving that old story, you'll notice something shift. Your chest feels lighter. Your days feel longer. Your future feels possible again. You'll stop waiting for them to write the next chapter, because you'll be too busy writing your own. Gapo 2sec. Way number 3. Build a life they couldn't step back into. Here's the uncomfortable truth nobody tells you after a breakup. If your life looks exactly the same without them as it did with them, you've just created a stage where their return would fit perfectly. That's a problem. Because whether you admit it or not, part of you is still leaving space for them. You're keeping the seat warm. You're holding on to the playlist you both liked. You're doing the same routines, going to the same spots, keeping the same orbit you had when they were part of it. And that's exactly why your heartbreak still feels raw. Because nothing about your environment tells your brain, we've moved on. The psychology of environmental anchors. Psychologists call them anchors, sensory and situational triggers that keep an emotion alive. It's why smelling their perfume in a store hits you like a sucker punch. It's why driving past the coffee shop you used to go to makes your stomach drop. Your brain has attached those places, habits, and objects to them. If you don't break those anchors, your mind will keep dragging you back into the emotional space where they still exist in your life. And here's the worst part. Even if they treated you badly, your brain will still romanticize those anchors, because the mind confuses familiarity with safety. The problem with leaving the door open: if your ex could step right back into your life today without having to adjust to anything new, you've essentially been holding their spot. That's not independence. That's emotional squatting. You need to build a life so different, so upgraded, so full of new routines, experiences, and environments, that if they ever came back, they'd feel like a stranger in your world. Not because you're trying to spite them, not because you're trying to make them jealous, but because you're not the same person they left, and your life should reflect that. Why this feels scary and why it's necessary. Rebuilding your life without them means confronting a terrifying truth. Your old comfort zone is gone. The routines you shared are gone. The default you were living in no longer exists. And that's exactly the point. You can't heal in the same emotional ecosystem where you got hurt. You need new air, new spaces, new rhythms that don't include their shadow in the background. It's the emotional equivalent of redecorating after a house fire, not because you want to pretend it never happened, but because you refuse to live in the ruins. Step 1. Audit your current life. Look at your daily and weekly routines right now. Ask yourself, does this habit exist because we used to do it? Does this place feel like our place, even though it's just me now? Does this playlist, show, or hobby still carry their fingerprints? If the answer is yes, that's an anchor. And anchors aren't just reminders, they're emotional handcuffs. Step 2. Replace, don't just remove. It's not enough to stop going to the same restaurant or delete the playlist. You need to replace them with something that has no connection to your past relationship. If you had a Sunday brunch spot, find a new place in a different part of town. If you always watched a certain Netflix series together, start a new one they've never seen. If you had certain friends you only saw as a couple, make an effort to expand your social circle. The goal is to create fresh, emotional real estate where their memory has no property rights. Step 3. Upgrade, don't downgrade. This is where most people get it wrong. They remove the X-shaped pieces from their life, but don't fill the space with anything better. That's when loneliness creeps in, and the temptation to reconnect gets stronger. Instead, you have to upgrade your life in ways that make the old version of you and them irrelevant. Start that fitness routine you've been putting off. Take a class in something you've always been curious about. Travel somewhere you've never been. Change your living space so it doesn't feel like their ghost still lives there. The bigger the upgrade, the less likely you'll be to crave going back to the old model. The psychological payoff. Here's what happens when you rebuild your life intentionally. Your brain starts associating your happiness with you, not with them. Your confidence comes back because you're proving you can thrive without their presence. Your self-image shifts from the person they left to the person who leveled up after they left. And once that shift happens, even if they did come back, you'd look at them through new eyes and probably realize they don't fit in the upgraded version of your life. Why? This is the ultimate revenge without trying. People always talk about making your ex regret it, but the deepest, most devastating regret you can cause someone isn't by making them jealous. It's by becoming so fulfilled, so self-sufficient, and so out of their league that the idea of stepping back into your life feels intimidating. It's when they see you living a life they'd have to fight to keep up with, and they know they can't. That's not petty revenge. That's growth-based revenge, and it's the only kind worth having. The emotional test. Here's how you'll know you've truly built a life they couldn't step back into. Imagine they text you tomorrow saying, "Hey, can we talk?" If your gut reaction isn't a rush of hope, but a calm, "I don't think that's a good idea," you've passed the test, because that means you're not just surviving without them, you're living in a reality where they don't even make sense anymore. The bottom line. You don't rebuild a life so they'll want to come back. You rebuild it so you won't want to go back. The more you change your routines, upgrade your environment, and create new experiences without them, the more you rewire your brain to associate your identity with the present, not the past. And the moment your life becomes unrecognizable compared to the one they left behind, that's the moment your heartbreak loses its grip. Because you'll realize the truth. You didn't just lose someone. You shared an entire version of yourself that you've now outgrown. And trust me, once you've upgraded, you'll never miss the old floor plan. Gapo 2 sec. Way number 4. Turn the pain into a personal war. Let's get one thing straight. You can't think your way out of heartbreak. You can't just get over it because someone told you time heals all wounds. Time doesn't heal. What you do with time heals. Right now, that pain in your chest, that's raw, untamed energy. And you've got two options. Waste it by sitting in bed, replaying the breakup like a bad movie, refreshing their profile like a stalker in denial. Weaponize it by turning every ounce of that pain into fuel for the kind of transformation they could never stop, even if they tried. Pain is energy. Decide where it goes. Here's the thing most people don't understand about heartbreak. The intensity you feel isn't just sadness. It's energy. The same energy that once made you drop everything to reply to their text, or drive across town at midnight just to see them. Now that they're gone, all that energy is sitting in your system like an overcharged battery. If you don't direct it, it will leak out as overthinking, anxiety, and obsession. But if you channel it, you can rebuild your life at a speed that will scare the version of you that existed before they left. The choice between collapse and construction. Most people collapse after heartbreak. They take the pain personally. They let it convince them they're unworthy, unlovable, unlucky. The ones who rise? They treat the breakup like an initiation, a trial by fire, a declaration from life itself. I dare you to come out of this unrecognizable. When you start treating heartbreak as a war you've been drafted into, one where the only victory is your complete transformation, the pain stops feeling pointless. Your pain to power blueprint. Here's how you weaponize heartbreak. Pick a target worth bleeding. For that could be a fitness goal, a new skill, a side business, a creative project. The point is to give your energy somewhere to go so it doesn't keep circling back to them. Set ruthless non-negotiables. You don't try to work on your goals. You treat them like oxygen. Miss a day, you're suffocating yourself. Tie the work to the pain. Every rep in the gym, every late night of study, every small win, tie it to the reminder. This is what I built from what tried to break me. Refuse to make them the motivation. This is key. Your transformation is not about showing them what they lost. It's about showing yourself what you've always been capable of. The psychological flip right now, your pain is linked to them. Every time you think about the breakup, you feel weak. That's because your brain has associated them with loss. When you redirect your energy into personal war mode, you start associating them with growth instead. They stop being the villain in your story. They become the catalyst. And once they're the catalyst, they lose all control over you. The day they notice. There's a moment that comes after weeks or months of this war, and you'll know it when it happens. It's when someone tells them, "Hey, have you seen them lately?" And they do. And they realize you didn't just move on. You evolved. It's the day they recognize they'd have to earn their way back into your life. And even then, the answer might still be no. But here's the twist. By the time that day comes, you won't care whether they notice or not, because the war will have already been won. The secret mantra reveal. And here's where I want you to lock this in. Go to the comments right now and type, "I turn my pain into power." Don't just type it for me. Type it so you see it staring back at you tomorrow. Type it so anyone scrolling through these comments knows they're watching someone who refuses to stay broken. The first person to comment this mantra is getting pinned, not because it's a competition, but because it's a declaration of intent. When you write it, you're not just saying words, you're drawing the battle line between the old you and the new you. Why this works? Science backs this up. Studies on post-traumatic growth show that some people don't just recover from loss, they rebuild stronger, more confident and more purpose-driven than before. The difference between those people and the ones who stay stuck: intentional action. They didn't wait for time to heal them. They treated their pain like a personal project. They made sure that nothing they went through was wasted. And that's what you need to decide right now. Either your pain becomes your prison, or it becomes your passport. The emotional test. Here's how you'll know you've truly turned the corner. When you think about the breakup, it no longer feels like a wound. It feels like a weight you lifted. And instead of wondering, why me, you think, thank God it was me, because I was strong enough to survive it. That's when the war is over. That's when the victory is yours. The bottom line. You can't control whether they left. You can't control whether they come back, but you can control what you build in their absence. Pain is just energy, and right now, you have more of it than you'll probably ever have again in your life. Don't waste it scrolling. Don't waste it reminiscing. Don't waste it wondering what they're doing. Turn it into muscle. Turn it into money. Turn it into mastery. Turn it into power. Because when you treat heartbreak like a personal war, you don't just win against them. You win against the version of yourself that would have stayed broken. And that's a victory no one can take away from you. Gapo 2 sec. Way number 5. Stop negotiating with your standards. Heartbreak has a sneaky side effect most people don't talk about. It makes you drop your own standards just to feel wanted again. You know exactly what I'm talking about. That moment you answer a text you shouldn't. That night you let someone back into your bed because it's easier than feeling alone. That instant you convince yourself maybe it wasn't that bad, about the very thing that shattered you. That's not healing. That's self-betrayal in disguise. The emotional bargain that keeps you stuck after a breakup. Your brain is desperate for relief from the ache. It's like an addict craving the next hit. And the fastest way to get that hit is to lower the bar so someone, anyone, can walk over it and give you temporary comfort. But every time you do that, you're making an unspoken deal. I'll ignore what I truly want if you just give me enough attention to stop the pain for now. And here's the trap. It works in the moment. You feel less lonely. You feel desired. You get that dopamine spike. But the second they leave, the ache comes back. Stronger this time, because now you've added shame to your heartbreak. The science of standard collapse. Neuroscience calls this reward prediction error. The gap between what you expected and what you got. When you lower your standards to get quick relief, your brain expects long-term satisfaction. When it doesn't get it, the crash is harder. That's why those just one-night moments or just one more conversation choices can send you spiraling all over again. You're not just disappointed in them, you're disappointed in yourself. Why standards are your lifeline. Right now. Your standards aren't just about dating or relationships. They're the rules you live by for how you allow people to treat you. After heartbreak, those rules are the only things standing between your healing and another round of damage. Without them, you're open to getting sucked back into toxic cycles, confusing validation with connection, letting people in who don't deserve to know you at your most vulnerable. With them, you filter out anyone who can't meet your baseline respect. Send a clear message to others and yourself that your worth is non-negotiable. Build trust with yourself again. The most dangerous negotiation. You might think the most dangerous negotiation is the one you have with your ex. It's not. It's the one you have with yourself at 1 a.m. when you're lonely. It's the inner voice that says, it's just one text. I'll just see what they're doing. I'll only talk to them if they reach out first. Every time you listen to that voice, you're telling yourself that your boundaries are optional, and the second your boundaries become optional, they stop being boundaries at all. How to reinforce your standards under pressure. Here's the thing. It's easy to have standards when you're not lonely. It's when the silence gets loud that they get tested. So here's your reinforcement plan. Write them down. Vague standards don't survive temptation. Make a concrete list. I don't respond to my ex. I don't entertain disrespect. I don't pursue people who confuse me. Make them public, not to everyone, but to at least one friend who will call you out when you start bending them. Anchor them to identity instead of thinking, I can't break this rule. Think, I'm not the kind of person who breaks this rule. Reward yourself for keeping them. Every time you pass a test, do something to celebrate the win. The psychological flip. When you refuse to negotiate with your standards, the pain doesn't disappear immediately. But something else happens. You start trusting yourself again. You start respecting yourself again. And that self-respect becomes the foundation for your next chapter. Because here's the truth. Heartbreak isn't just about losing someone. It's about losing the version of yourself who knew where the line was and watching yourself cross it over and over. When you stop negotiating, you bring that version back, but stronger. What happens when they test you, and they will test you? Whether it's your ex sending that "hope you're doing well" text, or a new person giving you attention but ignoring your core values, they will see how far they can push the line. Your job isn't to argue. It's not to explain why the line is there. It's to enforce it, calmly, consistently, and without apology. Because the people who respect you won't need the explanation. And the ones who do, they were never going to respect you anyway. The long-term payoff. When you hold your standards through heartbreak, something powerful happens. Your life stops being about who wants you and starts being about who qualifies for you. You stop chasing chemistry and start demanding compatibility. You stop confusing attention with affection. You stop accepting people who almost treat you right, and that shift changes the kind of relationships you attract forever. The bottom line. In heartbreak, the temptation to negotiate with your standards will be constant. It will disguise itself as being open-minded. It will dress up as just for now. It will try to convince you that bending once won't matter, but it matters. Because every time you bend, you teach yourself that your needs aren't worth protecting. Stop negotiating. Start enforcing. Because the version of you who survives this heartbreak will either be the one who defended their worth, or the one who sold it off for a few minutes of comfort. And I promise you, comfort fades. Self-respect lasts forever. Gapo 2 sec. Way number 6. Stop building shrines to the past. Let's be brutally honest. A big reason your heartbreak still hurts is because you've turned your past relationship into a shrine. You may not think you have, but look around. That hoodie you forgot to throw away. Shrine. That drawer full of old letters, cards, and concert tickets. Shrine. That playlist you keep accidentally listening to. Shrine. Even the way you keep replaying the good moments in your head like a favorite movie. Yeah, that's a shrine too. Why shrines keep you stuck? Psychology has a term for this. Symbolic attachment. It's when you attach your emotions to objects, places, or rituals that remind you of someone. Your brain doesn't just store the memory of your ex. It stores everything connected to them. And when you surround yourself with those symbols, you're not remembering them fondly. You're keeping the wound fresh. Think about it. You wouldn't try to heal a burn while holding your hand over an open flame. So why are you trying to heal heartbreak while constantly surrounding yourself with the things that set it on fire in the first place? The nostalgia trap. The worst part about shrines is they don't even tell you the truth. They don't trigger balanced memories. They trigger filtered memories. That old hoodie, your brain doesn't remember the fight you had the night you wore it. It remembers how safe you felt in their arms. That love letter, it doesn't remind you of the lies that followed. It reminds you of the promises that never came true. Shrines are selective. They don't store reality. They store romanticized fragments. And every time you engage with them, you're reinforcing the fantasy version of the relationship, not the truth. Why you haven't torn it down yet? If shrines keep you stuck, why do people keep them? Simple. Fear. Fear that letting go of the objects means letting go of the memories. Fear that destroying the symbols means admitting it's really over. Fear that without the shrine, you'll have nothing left of what you once had. But here's the truth. Letting go of the shrine doesn't erase the memories. It just removes their ability to control you. You don't need an altar to someone who's no longer in your life. you need space to build something new. The clean break ritual. Here's how you tear down your shrine without feeling like you're throwing part of yourself away. Gather everything connected to them: clothes, gifts, notes, photos, playlists, even mutual favorite spots if you can avoid them. Decide their fate, trash it, donate it, pack it away in a sealed box that you don't touch for a year. Pro tip: sealing it away works if you're not ready to completely let go yet, but still need distance. Change the energy in your space. Rearrange your furniture. Add new art. Buy something symbolic of your next chapter. Replace rituals with new ones. If you had Friday date nights, replace them with Friday self-investment nights. Gym, class, reading, anything that builds you. The psychological payoff. When you remove physical reminders, you're not just decluttering your space, you're decluttering your mind. Without constant visual and sensory triggers, your brain stops firing the same emotional pathways connected to your ex. And when those pathways weaken, the emotional charge of the breakup fades faster. It's not magic, it's neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to rewire itself when you change what you feed it. When the shrine lives in your head. Here's the kicker: even after you remove all the physical reminders, you might still have a shrine in your mind. It shows up as daydreaming about what could have been, mentally replaying old conversations or perfect moments, fantasizing about them coming back. The only way to dismantle a mental shrine is to stop visiting it. That means catching yourself mid-thought and redirecting your focus to something in the present. A task, a goal, a conversation. At first, you'll have to redirect yourself dozens of times a day. Over time, it'll become automatic. The illusion of harmless keepsakes. One of the biggest lies people tell themselves is, "I'll just keep this one thing. It doesn't mean anything. It means something. Otherwise, you wouldn't be keeping it." That one thing is like leaving a single ember from a burned-down fire. It may seem harmless until the wind hits it and you're right back in the flames. When it comes to healing, partial shrines are just as toxic as full ones. It's all or nothing. When letting go feels like betrayal. This is the emotional part people don't talk about. Sometimes tearing down your shrine feels like betraying the love you once had. But here's the thing: honoring the past doesn't mean living in it. You can respect the role that relationship played in your life without giving it permanent residency in your present. The relationship had its time. It taught you what it needed to teach you. Now its role is over. The bottom line: as long as you keep the shrine, you keep the connection. As long as you keep the connection, you keep the wound. Tearing it down isn't cold. It's not heartless. It's not pretending you never cared. It's an act of self-respect. It's you saying, "I will not keep worshipping what no longer exists." Because the truth is, the longer you keep the shrine, the longer you delay building the new life you're supposed to be living. Let it go. Burn it down. Clear the space. Because the future you're stepping into doesn't have room for altars to people who chose to leave. Gapo 2 sec. Choose to outgrow them. On purpose. Here's the final, most liberating truth about heartbreak. You don't get over someone, you outgrow them. And outgrowing someone doesn't just happen with time. It happens when you deliberately build a life, a mindset, and a level of self-worth they could never meet today, even if they tried. Why outgrowing hurts more than it should. You'd think outgrowing someone would feel amazing from day one, but the truth is, the beginning hurts, because to outgrow them, you have to admit the relationship that once felt like home was actually just a stop on your journey. And that part of your life is done. It means admitting they're not coming with you. They don't fit where you're going. The version of you they knew is gone. That's bittersweet, but it's the only real form of closure you'll ever get. The psychology of growth gaps. Psychologists call this the growth gap, the distance between who you are now and who you were when you were with them. In the beginning, that gap is small. That's why you still think about them. That's why you still imagine, what if? Because you haven't built enough distance between the old you and the new you. But when you actively work on yourself, your health, your career, your mindset, your friendships, the gap widens. And as it widens, they stop being relevant to your present reality. The danger of staying the same. If you don't commit to outgrowing them, you'll stay in what I call emotional limbo. You'll move forward in time, but not in self. On paper, months pass, but emotionally, you're still standing in the same place they left you. That's how people stay stuck on an ex for years, because they never became someone new. They kept living as the person who loved them instead of becoming the person who doesn't need them. Outgrowing is a daily decision. This isn't a one-time choice you make after watching this video. It's a decision you make every single day. When the memory hits, you choose to focus on your next move instead of replaying the old moment. When the urge to check in comes, you choose to put that energy into yourself. When someone new appears, you choose based on your current standards, not your old fears. You don't outgrow them by accident, you outgrow them by action. The steps to outgrowing someone on purpose. Upgrade your baseline. Whatever your life looked like with them, make that your starting point, not your goal. If you were at a 6'10" back then, aim for a 9'10" now in health, confidence and stability. Rebuild your social world. Stop hanging with people who only knew you as half of a couple. Create connections that see you as a whole person. Pursue experiences they never shared with you. New places, new hobbies, new challenges. The more you associate your present with things they've never touched, the faster you disconnect emotionally. Keep raising the bar. Don't just heal to your old level, surpass it. Make the version of you they remember completely outdated. When they try to come back, this is the twist nobody warns you about. Sometimes when you've finally outgrown them, they'll sense it and try to come back. And they won't say it outright. It might be a casual DM, a just thinking about you text, an attempt to re-enter your world as a friend, but here's where you'll know you've really outgrown them. When you can read that message, smile, and realize you're not even tempted, not because you're bitter, not because you hate them, but because the new you simply doesn't fit into the old relationship. The emotional shift, you can't fake. You can't rush outgrowing someone. You can't fake it by pretending you're over it when you're not. It's not about blocking feelings. It's about building a new identity. One day, without even noticing, you'll think about them and it won't trigger a reaction. They'll just be a person you used to know, not a ghost haunting your present. That's when you'll understand that heartbreak wasn't the end of you. It was the end of a version of you that you were never meant to stay in. The bottom line. You don't heal to get them back. You heal to get yourself back. You don't grow so they notice. You grow so you don't care if they do. Outgrowing them on purpose is the final act of self-respect in heartbreak. It's the moment you stop trying to win the breakup and start winning your life. Because one day you'll look in the mirror and realize the person staring back at you isn't waiting anymore. They're living. And that's when you'll know you've outgrown them for good. If there's one thing that keeps people chained to heartbreak longer than anything else, it's waiting for the apology. You know the one. The long, heartfelt message that finally admits they hurt you. The teary confession where they say, "You didn't deserve that. I was wrong." The moment they acknowledge every ounce of pain they caused. It's the fantasy conversation that plays in your head at night. And it's the reason you still check your phone every morning, just in case. The harsh truth. It's not coming. Let's rip the bandage off. For most people, that apology will never come. Not because you don't deserve it. not because they don't know they hurt you, but because giving it would require them to confront who they were, face the choices they made, acknowledge the gap between the person they pretended to be and the person they actually were. That's not a level of self-awareness or courage everyone has. Some people would rather rewrite history in their own head than face the truth out loud. Why waiting for the apology keeps you weak. The second you make your healing dependent on their accountability, you hand them the keys to your freedom. You're basically saying, I can't move forward until you give me permission. And here's the dangerous part. Even if the apology does come, it rarely fixes what you think it will. It might feel validating for a few minutes, but then you're left with the same reality. The relationship is still over. The trust is still broken. The past is still the past. Closure doesn't come from them. It comes from you. Real closure isn't when they say, I'm sorry. Real closure is when you can say, it's over, and I don't need anything else from you. It's when you decide your healing is a one-player game. It's when you stop waiting for them to fix the wound they caused and start stitching it shut yourself. This is why people who take full responsibility for their healing bounce back faster. They're not sitting around hoping for a miracle text. They're not rereading old messages for hidden signs. They're building their life forward with or without acknowledgement from the other side. The psychological breakthrough. The moment you stop expecting the apology, you free yourself from emotional debt. Think of it like this. Right now, you've got an open invoice in your head with their name on it. Payment due, accountability. But every day they don't pay it, you're racking up interest in the form of resentment, frustration, and obsession. The moment you cancel that invoice, you're debt-free, emotionally liquid, able to invest your energy wherever you want. What making peace really means? Making peace doesn't mean you approve of what they did. It doesn't mean you let them back in. It doesn't mean you excuse the behavior. It means you accept that you may never get the words you wanted, and you're going to live fully anyway. It's looking yourself in the mirror and saying, they don't have to set it right for me to set myself free. How to stop waiting for the apology. Write the letter you'll never send. Get it all out. Every hurt, every betrayal, every disappointment. Then read it once and destroy it. The point isn't for them to hear it, it's for you to release it. Reframe the silence. Instead of thinking, they won't apologize because I'm not worth it, think, they won't apologize because they can't face it. Shift the goal. Stop aiming for hearing the words. Start aiming for living in a way that makes those words irrelevant. Fill the gap with self-validation. Write down the apology you wish they'd given you and give it to yourself. You are the only one who needs to hear the truth now. Why this makes you untouchable. When you no longer need anything from the person who hurt you, they lose all leverage over you. They can reach out, they can stay silent, they can move on, come back, disappear again. None of it shifts your center. You become unshakable because your healing isn't in their hands, it's in yours. And here's the thing about people who've truly moved on. They stop living for explanations. They stop rehearsing confrontations. They stop waiting for permission to be okay. They just are okay. The bottom line, the apology might never come, and if it does, it might not change a damn thing. So stop building your future on a maybe. Stop waiting for words that may never be said. Stop letting your life be held hostage by their willingness to do the right thing. Make peace with the silence. Make peace with the fact that you'll write the ending yourself. And make peace with the truth that they don't get to decide when you're free. Because once you stop waiting for the apology, you stop waiting, period. And that's when your healing actually begins. Agapo 2sec. From pain to power. If you've made it this far, then you already know Heartbreak isn't the villain here. It's the mirror. It's the test. It's the forge. And you've got two choices. Walk away from this video and let life pull you back into the same patterns, or walk out of here and start building the version of yourself they could never replace, even if they begged. These 7 shifts aren't theories. They're the same battle-tested principles that thousands of people have used to walk through heartbreak and come out unrecognizable on the other side. Because here's the reality most people can't handle. You will never get closure from them. You will only get closure from the version of you that refuses to go back. So take the no contact, starve the story, build a life they can't step back into, turn pain into your personal war, defend your standards like your life depends on it, because it does. Tear down the shrine, and then outgrow them on purpose. The longer you keep watching videos like this, the faster those old triggers lose their grip. And if you want the complete blueprint to breaking the cycle with avoidant exes and toxic dynamics, I've already done the work for you. The 7 full volumes of the Avoidant X series are on this channel right now. Start from volume 1 and watch them in order. By the end, you'll understand exactly why they pulled away, exactly why you felt powerless, and exactly how to rebuild in a way that makes you untouchable. If you're ready to stop letting this breakup define you, hit subscribe and turn on all notifications, because this channel is where breakups stop being your weakness and start being your weapon. And before you go, drop your mantra from earlier in the comments. I turn my pain into power. Not for me, not for them, for you. So you can see it every time you come back here, and remember, you're not stuck, you're not broken, and you're not done. You are becoming, and this is only the beginning.